Welcome participants in the next session, and in the last session we were talking about very significant factors of organizational behavior, and among them we were talking about power politics, and we started with the politics. We could define and understand the meaning of organizational politics, and before we go ahead, there is need to understand the nature or characteristic of organizational politics. The very first characteristic of organizational politics is study of practice of distribution of power and resources within a given organization. How the power and resources in an organization have been distributed, shared among different individuals, teams, departments, that will decide, that will basically create the gamut of politics in the organization. Another characteristic of politics is often said to be about power and political system. So, what kind of political system is developed in the organization that will basically decide the politics in the organization, and it will develop a framework that will define the acceptable methods within the organization. Third characteristic of organizational politics is politics can be used to gain promotions, sale proposals, increase power and more. In other words, organizational politics is a mean which can help employees, organization, teams, everyone to attain their goals, and these goals may be the personal goals or the organizational goals. So, organizational politics, specifically the positive and constructive organizational politics, is helpful to all individual teams and organization as a whole. Now, the type of political behavior includes withholding information, forming coalitions and lobbying. The major strategies are with holding informations. Information is considered as one of the key factor in practicing the politics in organization or society. And yes, how the coalitions, how the networking within the group has been developed, formed, that is also the key instrument of practice of politics in organization. Lobbying means how different interest groups are working together to attain their interests, and this is process of lobbying, and lobbying is also one of the technique of practicing or developing the organizational politics. Another factor among the nature of organizational politics is organizational politics are intended to enhance or protect a person's influence. Yes, if there is need to enhance the capability of influence, or there is need to protect, in both the cases the organizational politics will play a key role in that. One more characteristic of organizational politics is politics is a fact of life in organizations. It means whenever there is an organization, certainly there will be politics. As I gave example, that it may be even a very small family, may be a very small team, there will be multiple interests, and whenever there are multiple interests, everyone will try to protect their interest, and the protection of interests is sometimes possible with the help of politics. And if this complete phenomena of protecting of interest is practiced in the organization, by practicing the politics is the organizational politics. And good organizational politics is often called networking and stakeholder management. Stakeholder management means as I told you that there can be different stakeholders in the organization. Different stakeholders means owners of the organization, then employee of the organization, financiers of the organization, then raw material suppliers of the organization, customers of the organization, or even the government is stakeholder, and all these have their different interests, and because of their different interests all they want to attain their interests, and attainment of these interests is possible by politics only. So, that is one of the compulsory phenomena. These are some of the characteristics of organizational politics. Now, what are objectives of organizational politics? What can be attained as a result of practicing the organizational politics? The very first is gaining power. One of the human tendency is to attain power, or otherwise also if someone want to work effectively, productively in the organization, there is need of power. And yes, of course, as a virtue of legitimate or delegated power, people can work, but organizational politics is also one of the factor which can help in gaining the power. The second objective is boosting the productivity. The organizational politics, if practiced positively and constructively, then the effectiveness and efficiency can be enhanced, and enhancement in effectiveness and efficiency leads to increase in the productivity of the organization. So, organizational politics has impact on the productivity of organization if it is practiced positively and constructively. Then yes, of course, organizational politics helps in protecting self interests or interest of the people. Basically, trade unions are the political groups, and these political groups help people to protect their self interest, and yes, of course, to protect the self interest of various teams. So, organizational politics is playing a key role in protecting the interest of people working with organization. Next one is earning, gaining recognition. Organizational politics, if someone is actively involved in positive and constructive organizational politics, that person will get recognized and will of course gain more power. Yes, one more objective of organizational politics is to resolve disputes. If there is any kind of dispute or conflict in the organization, the constructive and positive organizational politics can help the organization to resolve the disputes. The people involved in the organizational politics can motivate and mobilize the people involved in the conflict, and they can ask them to sit together and to decide for resolving the conflict or for managing the dispute. Next objective of organizational politics is promoting personal objectives. Yes, the personal objectives, certain people involved in the organizational politics for attainment of their certain objectives, their personal objectives, they try to promote that, and this can be seen when multiple leaders are working with different kind of their thinking, if they are working together and they want to promote their own personal objectives. So, it is possible with the help of organizational politics. The next is organizational politics helps in earning money and income. Yes, it enhances. Organizational politics is not a phenomena which is happening with the organization also. The organizational politics can go beyond the organizational working and help organization to effectively achieve its goals, and that effective achievement of goals of course, helps in generation of revenues, and this generation of revenue will increase the income and wealth maximization. And next objective of organizational politics is developing power contacts. Sometimes there is need to take support from various bodies to run the business of organization, and in that case there is need to develop the contacts or to create the networking. So, organizational politics helps to create the contacts and expand the organizational networking. So, these are some of the objectives. Now, what are different type of organizational politics? The very first one is transactional politics, relational politics, institutional politics, and cultural politics. Now, let us try to understand all of them one by one, and taking very first the transactional politics. The transactional politics is type of politics involves individuals who are focused on their own self interest and personal gains. A specific organizational politics being practiced for the attainment of individuals' self interest and personal gains, that is understood as transactional politics. Next one is relational politics. The relational politics is all about building a strong relationship with key individuals within the organization. It is process of creating a strong relationship among the significant position holders, leaders, managers, so that an effectiveness can be created in the organization, which will help the organization to attain its requisite productivity and attainment of organizational goal. So, that is relational politics. Next one is institutional politics. The institutional politics emphasizes on the rules, the policies and procedures being practiced in the organization. If the political system of organization is helping to develop a specific type of rules, policies, programs, schemes, standard operating procedures, that politics is known as institutional politics. Basically, institutional politics helps to develop that type of policies, program, schemes and standard operating procedures, operational activities, so that institutional or organizational goals can be attained easily. So, this is institution. Another type of organizational politics is cultural politics. When the organizational politics is emphasizing on the development of a kind of culture in the organization, which will help the organization to attain its goal effectively. That type of politics is known as the cultural politics. So, now I am emphasizing from the very beginning that the politics should be positive and constructive. So, sometimes the organization, the teams or individual get carried away by the organizational politics, or they may also involve in the negative and destructive kind of organizational politics, which will start hampering the interest of organization, the interest of departments and the interests of individuals. So, how to deal with the organizational politics, how to keep the organizational politics on such a track that everyone's interests are positively and constructively impacted or affected by the organizational politics. And if we want to really deal effectively with the organizational politics, the very first requirement is understand the landscape of organization. If we see an organization from the top of the organization, various factors, various resources, various power sources and various interest groups, various stakeholders, they are all working together and pulling and pushing the organization in their interest areas, and consequently there are development of equations, and these equations are affecting the interpersonal relationships, communication, working behaviors and everything. So, how an organization is working, understanding its landscape at broader level is must to deal with the organizational politics, because understanding will give what are various sources of power, how these power sources have been utilized, what is direction of organizational politics, and how it is generating, what kind of dynamism it is creating. That can be understood with the help of understanding the landscape of the organization. And the next, once you have understood that, it should be communicated openly, it should be shared openly with everyone. The next is promote a positive culture, appropriate climatic conditions. If the culture of organization and climatic conditions are not appropriate, that may give birth to the negative organizational politics. Whereas, if organization is promoting a positive culture in the organization, that will help organization to create, to evolve the appropriate organizational politics. Yes, the organization should never forget about focusing on the goals. The at most important, if we want to really have a control on the organizational politics, then the organizational goal is the landmark. Each one of the individual employee, the teams and organization should look towards the organizational goals and should focus, and accordingly the organizational politics should be practiced. Only then we can deal it with in a better way. These are some of the factors which can help how the organizational politics can be dealt. Now, impact of organizational politics, there can be positive and negative both, and the positive impacts include improved employee performance and motivation. If really the organizational politics is positively and constructively used for the attainment of organizational goal, certainly it will improve the performance of employee and it will keep the employees motivated to attain their goals. Negative impact of organizational politics is it will decrease the productivity, it will decline down the concentration at the low level, and it will create a kind of cynicism. So, that can be the negative impact of the organizational politics. Another negative impact is high employee turnover. If the organizational politics is very critical, complex, affecting the interest of people and generating the negative impact, then people will get frustrated and they will start leaving the organization, and resultantly the organizational turnover will go high. Yes, inappropriate or negative organizational politics can lead to the rumor or miscommunication. If the organizational politics is negative, people will start trying to take advantage by miscommunicating and spreading rumor in the organization, and if miscommunication and rumor can lead to the disaster. So, that should be dealt appropriately. Then other impact of organizational politics, negative impact of organizational politics is decreased productivity, resentment and demotivated employees. Even the employees will get demotivated, low job satisfaction, organizational conflict. Yes, because number of power points or power groups will generate in the organization, or even the polarization may happen, and as a result of that the organization will get divided into the multiple sections, groups or two major groups, and if there is a very strong affiliation of these groups without understanding its consequences is there, that may lead to the organizational conflicts and disputes. So, these are some of the impact, and these all these things can badly affect the organization and can hamper the productivity and effectiveness and attainment of organizational goal. So, this is all related to the organizational politics. Now, we will talk about a new topic, that is sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a kind of behavior, and it is important for organizations to have a check and control on that. And when we are talking about sexual harassment, most of the time we think that it is harassment of the women only. No, it is not harassment of women only. It is harassment of any gender by the same gender or the counter gender. It may be anything. So, there is need to understand this phenomena, and there is need to control this sexual harassment. So, let us try to understand what is sexual harassment, and the meaning of sexual is anything related to sex or involvement of sex or involvement in the sex. Harassment is offensive, aggressive, violent conduct of a person, and which is unwelcoming in nature towards other person. So, that is harassment. Harassment basically is offensive, aggressive, violent conduct, behavior which is not welcoming in nature towards others. So, sexual harassment is basically it is process of harassment to the same or counter gender which is unwelcoming in nature and aggressive and offensive in nature. So, that is the sexual harassment. Now, why we are talking about sexual harassment? Again, there is need to understand that organizations are social entity, and the interest of people are different. To attain the interest now, people can go for positive, negative, any kind of activities or politics or use of power, and sometimes use of negative and destructive kind of behaviors that may lead to the sexual harassment. So, sexual harassment is a negative phenomena which may happen among organizations and which needs to be controlled. And in sexual harassment, if we take a definition given by the Act of Sexual Harassment 2018, and it is known as Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013 India. The sexual harassment includes any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior. So, anyone in organization is found involved in any of the activity which I will share just now. Number one, physical contact and advances. If someone tries to make physical contact and advances, if there is a demand or request for sexual favors, or if someone is making sexual colored remarks on someone, if someone is trying to show the pornography, or if there is any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal conduct of a sexual nature. And lastly, if the sexual harassment of women at workplace, all these activities will come under the preview of sexual harassment. So, the basic elements of sexual harassment given are very wide in nature, and these all activities would be considered. So, people are expected to stay away or abstain from such kind of activity involvement. Now, the Supreme Court of India has also defined the sexual harassment, and according to that, any unwelcome sexual determined behavior such as physical contact and advances, a deemed or request for sexual favor, sexually colored remarks showing pornography and others, all these will also, it has again been established by the Supreme Court of India. Now, we need to understand the difference between sexual harassment and consensual and sexual relationships, consensual. So, sexual harassment is distinguished from consensual or welcome sexual relationship by introduction of elements of coercion, threat or unwelcome by nature. Harassment is when there is coercion, threat or unwelcome without the will and wish of the counterpart, that is sexual harassment. Whereas, the consensual sexual relationship is the romantic interaction between consenting people. It is consenting whenever there is no consent, and this consent is even if someone's wife is working in the organization with her husband, and his husband is involved in unwelcoming behavior without the consent of wife, that may also be considered as sexual harassment. Some of the examples of sexual harassment, so that we can understand and we can abstain from such kind of activities. Number one is assigning lower grades on work of people who won't have sex. If someone desired to have sex or someone want to involve in the sexual relationship, and consequently the person the party denied for that, and to punish that, if the grades are assigned at lower level, that will be considered as sexual harassment. And next one is grant of job favors. It is not only deduction or decreasing the grades, when the unexpected favor is practiced to seek permission or to involve in the sexual relationship, that is also. Next one is asking a person out for dates or have sex, or interpreting the unwelcome behavior by saying she or he said no, but I know he really meant that. No, it will not be considered. Then next is sexual inferences and comments discussing sexual activities, telling of color jokes, using demeaning or inappropriate terms such as babe, honey, and creating or doing such kind of. Besides that, touching, patting, pinching, stroking, giving a back rub, squeezing, tickling and brushing, leaving obscene messages, sending obscene messages through emails or any other social media, withholding or providing differential training, information, promotion and evaluation practices, calling a person by sexually derogatory names or similar kind of activities will be considered as the sexual harassment. So, these are some of the activities, and sexual harassment, as I told, that it can happen with the same gender also, and it may happen with the third party, and in this process there are two parties involved, sexual harasser and sexually harassed. So, these are two, and there are preventive steps for sexual harassment, and yes, of course, there is legal remedies also, because this is legal offense. So, this is all related to sexual harassment, and here we conclude this session. Thank you for the participation. participation, and I hope that you might have enjoyed the learning. We will meet in the next session. Thank you very much. Thank you for the participation.